You're ready for a comeback. And with Purdue Global, you can do more than take classes. You can take charge of your story, of your career, of your life. Earn a degree you can be proud of and get an education employers respect. It's time, your time, not just to go back to school, but to come back and move forward with Purdue Global, Purdue's online university for working adults. Start your comeback at purdueglobal.edu.
Today, we're going to have Jill's solo Disney World and Universal trip. That's coming up on this episode 437 of W Prep to Go. Hello and welcome to WW Prep to Go, where we talk strategy and ideas for people planning their Disney World trips, and we have lots of trip reports, including today's episode. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPropSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 437. That's a big number. For some reason, that number just hit me today. I saw a stat that said something like 90% of podcasts end within the first 40 episodes or something like that. So we're 437 episodes in, and I think it's 11 years now. So we're just going to keep going. And the trip reports originally started off as just like a one-time thing many years ago. And they were so popular that we do them for most of the episodes now. So you just got to figure out what works. Today's podcast with Jill is an interesting one. And there's going to be a lot of different elements, I think, that will be of interest to you regardless of the type of trip that you usually do. So we've got Jill doing a solo trip. She is changing resorts every day because she likes to try out different resorts. I know some people want to see the resorts, and this is one way to do it. She also attended the Swan and Dolphin Food and Wine Festival, the Orlando and former Universal event, all kinds of things. So lots to learn from. Also, Jollywood Nights, if you're interested in hearing a review from her on that. So that will be up in just a second. As always, if you want to be a guest like Jill, the only way to do that is the SpeakPipe information in the show notes of every episode. This has gotten a lot better. When I started doing these reminders at the beginning of every episode, we were getting a lot of emails and DMs and things about how to be a guest. So I decided to just include it every time. And we don't get the emails and the DMs as much as we used to. So that's great. But please do SpeakPipe information. We're always looking for new types of trips, new types of travel parties, or the ways of doing things, whatever. We just want to keep it interesting. So if it works, if your trip works with our schedule and, it's a different kind of trip than we've seen before, then somebody on my team will reach out to you to get it scheduled and put on my calendar. Also, a reminder to follow on social media, especially on Facebook and Instagram, WDW Prep School. On both of those, we do Q&As on both. We post news on both, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to keep up to date, that is a way to do it. Without any further ado, here are my chats with Jill. Welcome to the podcast, Jill.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm honored to be here.
You and I are talking on Friday, November 8th, and I understand you are headed to Orlando soon.
Yes, I am. I'm heading down on Friday, November 15th and coming back on Tuesday, November 19th.
Okay. And who is going on this?
It is a solo trip. So it is just me. Yeah, which is a different trip from what I usually do. So this is a joy.
Is this your first solo?
It's not. I try to do about one a year, but this is the first in a while. So it'll be fun to do.
Okay. So how did you decide to go right now?
Yeah, so there were some interesting things happening. It's obviously the holidays down there and such a fun time with different events offered. But there were a few highlights. So I watched all the results of Jollywood Nights last year thinking, okay, is this going to be a train wreck or is it going to be really fun? And I decided the latter. So I'm going to be trying that out. And then some other things sort of happened to be scheduled on this long weekend. So it's a fun time to be down there. I'll be doing some different things. There's an Orlando Informer meetup heading to Orlando to Universal for a night that I've never done before. So that'll be fun. And there's also the Swan and Dolphin Food and Wine Festival, which I'll be taking advantage of. So kind of some fun, different things.
And before we hit record, you said you're kind of a late bloomer in the niche. So when did you become a Disney Parks fan?
I am. Yeah. So I only went twice as a kid. And then during the pandemic, I have two I had 2 elementary age kids during that time and wanted to take them for our one-time token trip, Shannon, right? You know how that goes.
I do. It is a path I know well.
Right.
And now it's my job.
Yeah, exactly. So I was planning the trip and it took about a year to really go hard in the planning, and it became a comfort during the pandemic. So we went in February of 2022 and we had an absolute blast, even in the midst of still kind of COVID time. But we had a wonderful time. And I kind of realized I actually like planning more than I like going. So I'm a very part-time Disney travel agent, and I've had a lot of fun just enjoying an annual pass year that I granted myself this time around. So I'm taking full advantage.
Okay. All right. And this is what I'm seeing is a lot of the people that are fans started in the last 5 years, which is why things like Genie Plus are familiar to you.
Yeah.
And so learning the new system feels, difficult, but
Yep. They don't
anyway,
make it easy. Yeah.
They sure don't. It keeps your synapses firing to always be learning stuff. Okay.
Yep.
So we know you're starting on November 15th, and are you flying to Orlando?
Yes, flying to Orlando from Newark Airport. So I live in the Northeast. And then where I'll be staying. So this is part of my Disney fandom. I'm sort of a bucket list gal. So I have been having fun ticking things off the experiences list. So I'm actually staying in multiple hotels in a 4-day trip, which is an interesting way to do it. But yeah, so flying down Friday, November 15th, I'm going to land just after 2:00, staying at the Dolphin, which I haven't stayed at before. I'm nearing the end of my list of places I haven't stayed in the past couple of years, but I'm getting there. And Friday, November 15th is a chill day, experiencing some things around there. So,
But
yeah.
you just started going in 2022 and you've
Yeah.
already stayed at most places?
I have. So I have taken full advantage of the split stay idea. So
Okay.
yes, have done a lot of separate short-term stays at different places. So yeah, the only ones, so I'm doing yacht club for one night on this trip, which I hadn't hit yet. And my older son and I will be going to Port Orleans Riverside in December, but then that actually that finishes off the list.
Okay. Well, this is interesting. Split stays have their own level of complication, but also you do get to see a lot of resorts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's different to trying to honor each resort, right? So enjoying something at the resort and not just using it as a place to stay. But it's been fun to experience them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be fun to talk through then. Okay. So you're
all about the logistics, right, Shannon? Yeah.
Always about the logistics.
Yep.
I also all these trip reports are booked for specific reasons because they introduce different elements. And so this is definitely a different element. So you're going from the Orlando airport to the Dolphin.
Yes.
How are you getting there?
Yes. So I've rented a car through Turo. I found that they're one of the more economical ways to do that. And I've had good luck with, if you get a highly rated driver on Turo, it gets you in good stead. So, yep. So I'll be picking up the car straight from the airport. No baggage this time. So it should be pretty quick.
Okay. And I know a lot of trip report guests have enjoyed using Turo, so I need to try it myself. So then you're going to the Dolphin, and then what?
Yeah. So I'm always nervous about flight delays and stuff like that. So I try not to over plan an arrival day. So mostly staying in that general area. If I have time, I will head over to Boardwalk, Beach Club, and Yacht Club to see some of the gingerbread house decorations. If I don't, there's time for that later in the trip. I have in mind stopping at the Il Molino Lounge, which opens early. It opens at like 3:30. And I have this is going to be a theme during this trip. I'm very food forward. So I'm a big fan of trying different restaurants and things like that. Again, more of those like, okay, I've tried this one, ticking off the bucket list items. But so hoping to stop at the Il Molino Lounge. But then my niece who lives in the area will be joining me, and we'll be going to the Swan and Dolphin Food and Wine Festival that evening, which starts at 5:30.
Okay. I will be curious to hear about that. I know a lot of people are fans of it.
Yeah, I've heard good things. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. So the ticket that I paid $195 for the ticket. And I've never done this before, so we'll see how this all goes. But it's unlimited food and wine then. And I've heard and looked at the menus and things. There are like 45 different options of food, which is insane for 4 hours. But it sounds like it'll be a fun time. So it should be.
Yeah. I love the idea of paying one price and then you just get full access.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's why people like it.
Yeah. I think
So
so too.
that's fun.
Yeah, I think so. If we have energy after that, we'll head over to Kimonos. They have karaoke certain nights of the week. So we'll see if we are feeling up to it. If not, we'll just head to bed.
Okay. And then the next day is Saturday, November 16th.
Yes, Saturday, November 16th. So I'm only staying one night at all these resorts, right?
Okay.
So actually, this is a quick little jump, though. I'm heading over to the Swan Reserve, which I had not been to. I'm planning to hit up Rosa Mexicano for breakfast. They have a very good looking buffet breakfast that is not often advertised and people don't talk about it so much, but I'm curious to see how it is. It's not even on My Disney Experience. So kind of an interesting little add-on.
I have never heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, Rosa Mexicano, I think it came in about a year ago. I haven't been over there to check it out yet, but the spread looks really good. Everyone talks about the churro waffles over at Crystal Palace, but they also have their own version of churro waffles. So I don't know. We'll see what my stomach is fancying that morning, but it sounds fun.
Okay. Is your niece still with you on this day or just the night before?
So if she is feeling like she needs a place to crash, I have room in my hotel room for that one night. But she'll be heading back to her life and work and family after that. Okay. She's in her early 30s, I should say. So she's a young adult.
She's a fully functional.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So after breakfast?
Yes. After breakfast, hope is to go to Epcot to walk through. And this is so interesting for me too, Shannon. This is a really different trip from when I take my kids and we're like rope drop to close people where we get all of the rides in and stuff like that. I'm an every ride challenge veteran. Actually,
you love a list.
I love a list, right? And I tried that in January and completed it, and my heart broke for the person you had a couple months ago who was one ride short. I totally get how that can happen, and it's brutal. It's such a day.
And sometimes it's not in your control.
Not at all. No, weather and luck and all the things. So no, I totally feel for him because it's a grueling day. But anyway, yeah, I'm usually a ride kind of nut, and this time not at all. So haven't bought Lightning Lane Multipass, which is the first time I've ever been able to say that on a trip. So anyway, I'm just going to Epcot I love Soarin', so I might try to hit up Soarin', look around at the festival booths. There's some places, some quick service places that I tend not to go to because there's so many festival booths that are usually open. So just sort of doing a nice little calm, quiet tour, walking around, soaking in the end of Food and Wine. My wondering is scooting over to the beach club. That's sort of an option that's in my head. They have an ornament making thing, and I like to do stuff like that. So there's a cute little sand ornament thing that is being offered for a short period of time. So if I can hit that, I don't know if the timing will work or not. After that, I figure I will check into Swan Reserve for that evening and then drive over to the Orlando Informer Universal event, which you can get to starting at 3 p.m. and you can get into the park starting at 5.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Orlando Informer Universal event. I know that's going to be very helpful information.
There's not a lot out there about it. I had trouble researching.
It's very popular though.
Yes.
So we need to learn more about it.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're going solo to that. Is there Facebook groups for that where people can kind of link up, or are you just going in completely blind?
I'm going in. I've seen some reports online. So I'm a member of Touring Plans and have asked a lot on there about how things work. There are a few blogs and vlogs about it. So my goal the Universal Informer Night is something that's put on, I want to say it's 6 times or something like that throughout the year. And they go from, the park closes early-ish on those days. So the park will close at 8 p.m. to regular guests. You can enter with this ticket as early as 5 and then stay until 12:30. Or no, 1. It's 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. So it's similar to, for folks who are familiar in the Disney World, similar to after hours and things like that, but there are some really key differences. So my goal in this is to enjoy some of the food, because that is my drive for this trip, and to soak in some of the Harry Potter things that I haven't done in a long time and some of the rides that I've never done. So the wait times at rides are very low, with the exception of Hagrid's. From what I have seen, it's just sort of a matter of trying to get from thing to thing in that really short window. So I have a tentative plan mapped out. I'm willing to hold some of it lightly and see how the night takes me. But yeah.
And you've been to Universal before?
I have a couple of times. Yep, but I'm much more familiar with Disney. So I generally know what I'm doing, but it's not as instinctive.
Yeah, but it's not all new either. So
right.
You'll have to see how that one goes. Okay, I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah.
The next day is Sunday, November 17th.
Yes, Sunday, November 17th. I am going to be very tired after a late night, I think, but it is technically Life Day, which is a holiday for folks who are familiar with the Star Wars. This isn't something that's celebrated very much at Disney World. It's more popular at Disneyland, but there sometimes are some increased fan energy around Galaxy's Edge. So I'm not
going to Hollywood Studios.
I'm going to Hollywood Studios, right? Not for very long, but I thought I would rope drop it if I have the energy. I'm going to try to rope drop Rise. It's down something like 30% of the time normally at rope drop. So I'm holding that lightly too and heading over hopefully to Smuggler's Run. I have never done Chewy mode on Smuggler's Run because I often go either by myself or like with one or two of my kids. So it's hard to you need all 6 people to get this kind of experience. And for folks who don't know, Chewy mode is this other kind of unique way of doing Smuggler's Run where instead of the instructions from the pilots, Chewy essentially is just shouting at you during the flight. And it's apparently kind of funny. And I've never gotten a chance to do it. So I'm going to kind of see if I can find some friends that day to join in, and maybe we can all have fun. But then that's just for the morning. After that, I'm heading over to Disney Springs. I have a boathouse brunch at 10:30.
Okay. You are not going to stay at Hollywood Studios very long, are you?
No, it's going to be really fast. I expect the crowds are going to be kind of, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm not super interested. My whole MO when I don't have multi-pass is to rope drop, get a couple things in, and then be out.
Okay. And have you been to the Boathouse for brunch before?
No, I've been there for dinner, not for brunch, but I hear it's a fun time.
Okay. Anything else in Disney Springs while you're there?
I probably will stop at Gideon's to get the seasonal cookies. They're wonderful. But actually, I'm coming back to Disney Springs that evening. So kind of holding some things there. So coming back, resting a little bit. This is when I was really planning to head over to Beach Club, Yacht Club, Boardwalk to take a look at some of the Christmassy things there. There are DVC tours that can be booked for compensation, and the compensation changes sometimes, but I've never done it. And I'm like, well, I'll spend some time on that for a Disney gift card if they are offering something like that. So I'll look into that, see if that's an option. But then, yeah, taking that day really easily, I think I'm going to be quite tired, frankly. I am moving to Yacht Club that day, so staying in Yacht Club that night. So just kind of hanging around that area. And then in the evening, I'm heading back to Disney Springs. I am looking forward to checking out Jock Lindsay's, which I've never been to, and I hear is really fun around Christmas time with different food options. And kind of hanging out in Disney Springs, letting the day sort of take me, see how hungry I still am, if I am at all, and just enjoying some of that atmosphere. And then my hope is to head back to Yacht Club where I'll be staying and go to Jelly Rolls that evening if I can.
That is a full day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you got to pack a lot in, right?
I know. It's the marathon versus a sprint, but you're sprinting because you have only a few days.
Right.
So,
and solo, it's easier too, actually. Yeah.
It is. Monday, November 18th.
Yeah, Monday, November 18th. So for folks who don't know, Monday, November 18th is Mickey Mouse's birthday. So that'll come into play with one very silly plan that I have, but I think it'll be fun. So I'm waking up at Yacht Club, and I have a cake bake shop breakfast reserved at 8 a.m., which should be fun. We'll see.
It's also Minnie Mouse's birthday.
Yes, that's right. It's both of their birthdays. Thank you. You're absolutely right. Yep.
Okay. Cake bake shop. And I'm taking notes as you talk. Did you say that was breakfast?
Yes, it's at 8 a.m. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are available on Open Table right now if anyone's super interested in getting that. I was a little leery with prices, so I'm very curious to see if it's actually worth it. I'm not planning to get a huge meal there because I'm spending money elsewhere, but we'll see.
Also, that's an easier thing when you're just one person.
That's right. That's exactly. There's a reason I'm not doing that on my family trip coming up. So, yep. Yep.
Okay. What else?
All right. So then I'm heading over. So I'm staying that evening at the Contemporary. So I'm heading over there and we'll check out their gingerbread shop. And then the big draw here is I'm heading over to Magic Kingdom. And there is a very unique hidden Mickey that is only visible on November 18th. It is what they call the rarest hidden Mickey. So again, this was the weekend that I had just randomly kind of booked, and all of these things kind of fell into place. Orlando meetup, Jollywood Nights, this random hidden Mickey. It was kind of fun. So it's visible where the light comes in through certain rocks in the under the sea with the Little Mermaid like exit line. So it's like in that queue area and it's only visible for like 20 minutes or something. So I just find this hilarious and silly. And I'm like, listen, if I have an annual pass for this 1 year, I'm going to take advantage of this kind of stuff.
Okay. Now, the trajectory from taking your one-time trip to finding the hidden Mickey that's only visible one day a year is epic.
Yeah, no, it totally is. It's wild. It's been an interesting couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that what you're doing because it's Mickey's birthday or something else?
So, yes. So that is the Mickey's birthday thing because it's only visible apparently in this day, which I find Imagineering is a beautiful thing. And I love the intricacy of it. So it'll be fun.
Any other plans at Magic Kingdom?
Tooting around, I haven't gotten the Tiana beignets, stuff like that. So I'm looking around at the holiday menus and just
have you ridden Tiana's?
Yes. So my younger son and I took a trip in late September. We managed to get it when it wasn't closed. So that was a good thing. Yes. And it was lovely. I thought they did a fantastic job, honestly. Priority this trip is not rides. It's the weirdest thing ever. But yeah, so it was great. But I'm just going to essentially soak in the atmosphere. I love Magic Kingdom around the holidays. It's such a fun place to be. Planning to do a bit of a monorail crawl at that point and look around at some of the holiday things. I have been there. I was there. I showed up January 1st, not this year, but last year. So I saw some of this, but I also missed some things that had already been taken down. So I'm having a lot of fun. This will be my first time going in November, so it'll be fun. And then that evening, so I'm planning to head back to the Swalfin area. I'm not sure I'm going to keep this, but for the moment it's there. I have a dinner at 5 p.m. at Amare, and then I plan to walk over to Hollywood Studios for Jollywood Nights.
Okay. You're really packing it in. Yeah. And so let's talk about Jollywood Nights. So you're brave to see the reviews last year and still say, I'm going to go. But to be fair, it seemed like it did improve.
Right.
So what is your main focus for Jollywood Nights?
Yeah. So main focus is, again, food, but also entertainment. So I love the entertainment that is exclusive to some of these special ticket events. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Muppet Show. And I mean, I'll sneak in Jingle Bell, Jingle Jam. The skating piece, Glisten, sounds interesting. And then ending the evening with the Jack Skellington show. So also have a reservation in there booked for, actually, this is really silly. I have a reservation booked for 50s primetime solely to get the peanut butter and jelly milkshake because you can't get it at Tune-In Lounge anymore. So I'm curious how that is, if I keep that or if I'm not like totally stuffed and feeling really gross at this point. And I also have a Hollywood Brown Derby reservation at 7:45 because they have some interesting apps and things. Again, grazing kind of throughout all of this stuff. But yeah, so that should be a fun evening. If I have time, I would love to. There's some really cool meet and greets that are unusual, like Santa Duffy is there, which is kind of a unicorn. I've not gotten to see The Mandalorian before, and I hear he's in Galaxy's Edge. So if I have time, I'll pop into some of these places. But entertainment and snacks are going to be the draw.
I do think the characters are a fun part of it.
Yeah.
So if you're into that, that can be fun.
Yep.
All right. And then Tuesday, November 19th.
Yes, that's my departure day, and I have like a 10 a.m. flight, so I figure I'll just grab something probably from Contempo Cafe and then get going to the airport.
All right. And then, so you did mention a couple of dining reservations, here, but you also have a different hotel every day. Did you have any issues making those reservations?
So I didn't, and I'm finding that reservations are much more accessible than they once were. I'm not picking, the Cake Bake Shop was very fortuitous. I kind of heard when they were available on Open Table and I snagged it, but none of the other ones, 50s Prime Time isn't a tricky one. Amare, some of those are not the highest demand things. But when I was booking harder ones a couple of years ago, it was more difficult, right? And I think with the prices of Lightning Lane Multipass and all these other things going up, I think personally that's just anecdotal evidence, right? But I think the restaurant reservations are falling by the wayside. They're just not fitting into the family budget as well as they once did. So seeing more availability.
Yeah, and I think Disney's increased, I think staffing was part of the issue, and I think there's probably a lot of different elements there. But I wanted to mention it because there's a couple downsides to split stays. One of them is the dining reservation thing, which would also pertain to Lightning Lanes, which you didn't book. So your trip is kind of ideal for switching resorts, and that you aren't really dependent on getting a lot of dining reservations or Lightning Lanes.
Yeah. The Lightning Lanes, thankfully, those do bridge over split stays. So my younger son and I went in September and we experienced this, which is really, I was very surprised, but it does cross over split stays, but dining doesn't. So that is trickier. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That is a perk of the Lightning Lane date, is that it does apply to your whole trip and not just a day.
Yeah, and I love Disney, and I also have my frustrations, and I think one is you shouldn't penalize people for trying split stays. That just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. If you can bridge Lightning Lane, I wish they would make that shift.
Yes, exactly. It gives me hope that maybe they will figure that out. But
yeah,
if you're staying on site, it seems like you're staying on site.
Right. Yep.
Does it matter where?
Right. No.
So, all right. So is there any part of your trip that we haven't talked about yet?
I don't think so. I think it's a pretty short trip, but there's a fair bit in there. The only, I guess, for folks who are curious, Orlando Informer, gosh, I'm trying to find I have the cost for it in case anyone is interested. So that was $255, which is substantive for like an after-hour ticket. But I should have said this before, it also includes all of the food that you can find in the park, basically. Almost all of the restaurants are open and offer something. It's a massive list. So unlike Disney's, where you have to buy all of the snacks and whatever you want in an after hours, I guess in the parties is what I'm thinking of. There's a slight difference there. So, but we'll see how it goes. I'm very excited to try different things. That will be a running around day, and the rest of Disney, I think, will feel pretty chill. So.
Yeah. It does seem like that's kind of your vibe this trip.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to hear about it because there's lots of interesting things going on, and I hope you have the best time.
Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate it.
The following ad is sponsored by Pets Best Insurance Services. Your pet is your bestie. Your therapist, your preferred match. It's easy to love them, even when they sneak your snacks. It's easy to protect them, too, with pet insurance coverage from Pets Best. Because it's all fun and games until they chew on something they shouldn't. With perfect timing, Pets Best helps protect your furry friend and your budget from this imperfect world. Get up to 90% on eligible vet bills for less than $1 a day. Find your perfect match at PetsBest.com. Pet insurance products offered and administered by Pets Best Insurance Services, LLC, are underwritten by American Pet Insurance Company or Independence American Insurance Company. For all terms, visit PetsBest.com/policy.
This holiday season, surprise everyone on your list with the best gifts. Tickets to see their favorite artists live. Choose from thousands of concerts and comedy shows, including Mariah Carey, Mary J. Blige, Matt Matthews, Metallica, Thomas Rhett, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Sarah Silverman, and so many more. Share a memory together, or give a gift they'll never forget. Find the most exciting gift for every fan at livenation.com/gifts. That's livenation.com/gifts.
Welcome back from your trip, Jill.
Thank you, Shannon.
We're talking on Wednesday, November 20th, so you just got back yesterday. Other than tired, how are you feeling?
Yeah, tired is accurate. My body needs to recover a little bit. It was a quick trip, packed in a lot, but it was great. It was a really good time.
Okay. Let's start talking about it to see how it went. So you told us that Friday, November 15th, you were going to fly from Newark to Orlando around 2:00.
That's right. Well, that was right. I actually got to the airport a little bit early and wound up being able to jump on an earlier flight. So I got to Disney about 1 instead of 2. The gift of being in a bigger airport with more options, right? So that was great. I arrived, was able to get my rental car from Turo very easily, no problems, and then drove over to the Dolphin. I had a 12-pack of water delivered there, and the Dolphin folks must have thought I was a total idiot because actually they offer water bottles for free to resort guests, but I wasn't staying there the whole time, so it was good to have.
You did have some hopping around. You needed to take it with you, I guess.
I did. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And I used it all up. But yes, I needed it. The weather was lovely. But for folks who don't know or haven't been in November, it's still hot. So, I mean, it was high of mid 80s when I was there. So for someone from the Northeast, that's quite warm this time of year. I came back to 40-degree weather. So yeah, so definitely used it. But yeah, so I picked that up and the room was not yet ready. So left my bags and walked over to the Skyliner and hopped on that to go to the Riviera. Went there to go to Bar Riva, which is a wonderful little spot, grabbed a burger there for lunch, and that was just lovely. In that time, I got a text that the room was ready, so I went back, and on the way back, saw the beach club carousel, the gingerbread display that is absolutely stunning. I can't get over what an incredible job they do with these things. Like, it's just the amount of ingredients and the care and attention is just fantastic. So I spent some time looking at that and also stopped at Boardwalk to see its display, which was cool. So, yep, went back, got to the room. I rested a bit at that point. And around 5:30, I met my niece who is local to Orlando. And she and I went to the the Wine and Dine Festival at Swan and Dolphin.
Okay. I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this goes on, it's one weekend a year, right? It was their 15th year doing it, apparently. And it was from 5:30 to 9:30. So for the price of one ticket, you got all of the food and wine that is offered at this event. And for folks who've been to Swan and Dolphin, there's like a long walkway between those two resorts. That entire area was completely full of booths. And then the booths also wrapped around the buildings. So, I mean, it was a voluminous amount of alcohol for folks who are interested in that kind of setting.
I've seen it set up before, but haven't attended. What is the backup plan in case of weather that they go inside?
That is my understanding. We had gorgeous weather, so I'm not 100% sure, and this was my first time too. Okay. That would be my best guess in the convention areas and stuff, but because nothing was going on around there, I walked through some of those hallways when I was there, and that makes sense. But there were so many booths. I mean, it was completely overwhelming. So very similar to if folks have done some of these things around Epcot, the vibe was similar. So tons of different booths with a lot of wine. Wine was kind of the specialty there, and they were all from different countries. So there was like a Spain booth, and then there would be a California booth. So not even just countries, right? Different settings. But there were, I can't even tell you how many, like easily 100 plus of these things. It was just crazy.
And okay, and you told us beforehand it's one price. So it's like all you can eat or drink.
Right. So there are a couple of stations that are set up where you can go register, or where, I mean, you've already registered and paid, but where you can pick up your wristband, and they also give you a plastic wine glass at that time. And then it's just kind of free reign in that area. So, yep, it cost $195 for one ticket, which, like, we can talk about whether that felt like it was worth it or not. It's a interesting, I could see where for some people the vibe would be fun. The food itself was very elevated. The presentations were absolutely beautiful. Everything we ate was stunning. So they feature specific dishes from all of the restaurants at Swan and Dolphin, which are very good restaurants, all things considered, and then also some additional booze on top of that. So there is a fair bit of food as well, though I think for folks who are going to this, the draw is probably more the wine. It was a lot of money to pay for an event like that, but for a one-time deal, if this is a special night with friends or something like that, I could see where you could make the case where it would be worth it.
Yeah, that's good to know. I know it's very popular with a lot of people, so clearly appeals to a certain group at least.
Yep, I can definitely see that. And there were discounts for rooms if you were doing this. So Swan and Dolphin offered room discounts, which I could see why, because I think folks would be definitely ready to crash after. So my niece and I got there at 5:30. It wasn't super crowded. We left we didn't stay the whole time. We left around 7:30 or 8. Our priority was dinner through the food. We each had a couple drinks, but it wasn't a crazy amount. The one place where I could see where this would be considered worth it is if you want to try all these really good restaurants. They're expensive, so 1 or 2 dinners at those restaurants would put you over that ticket price, right? So if you wanted to try all of them or try a little bit from all of them, this is a way to do that.
Yeah, that nice little sampler of sorts.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. At that point, your niece is local, so she went home and you stayed at the Dolphin.
That's right. Yep. My night wasn't over. I debated crashing, but I was kind of hyped up at that point. So I went over to Il Molino and tried their meatballs, which was fantastic. They have a lovely little lounge. You can just walk up. And then I went over to Kimonos and had a time with karaoke. Which
and
is
you were,
really fun.
Is your niece still there or were you solo?
No, she was gone. So I was just kind of bopping around. I had never been to Kimonos before and I do like sushi. So, and by this time, like dinner had settled and it was later. So just grabbed a little bit of sushi and a drink. And I sort of redeemed myself. I had a lousy karaoke experience like 5 or 6 years ago in my life. And this was such a nice vibe and people are really friendly and kind. So it was a fun spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You're really soaking it all in, doing all the things.
Trying. Yeah.
Okay. So then that's the end of your Friday.
That is the end. Although I do want to say for both Il Molino and Kimonos, there's a passport dining program at Swan and Dolphin, if folks aren't aware of this. So it's one of those things where it's free. You sign up for a card and you get a certain number of points per dollar spent at 4 of the restaurants at Swan and Dolphin. And then you get like $20 off your meal if you get to a certain amount, etc. So if you're planning to spend a lot of time there, that's well worth signing up for.
Okay. That is good to know. The next day was Saturday, November 16th, and you were moving to the Swan Reserve on this day.
That's right. Yep. So woke up and I went to Rosa Mexicano for breakfast. So that is not listed in my Disney experience, which I don't quite understand. They don't take reservations for breakfast, but you go and it's a lovely buffet and then there's some a la carte options as well. So for folks looking for a nice breakfast spot, I would highly recommend this. It was just $2 more than Ale and Compass's buffet breakfast, which gets a lot of hype in that area of the park or that area of the resorts. And Rosa Mexicano opens up at 7 a.m. So if you're really speedy about it, it could make for a good like pre-Epcot breakfast. But it was excellent. I had a really good experience there. Food was good. So then after that, I went to Epcot. I got to Epcot a little bit later than I had planned to, but I was tired from the previous day, which is going to be a theme on this trip, Shannon. But anyway, I arrived at Epcot around 8:40, so still during early entry, and walked over to Soarin'. That was effectively a walk-on at that time, so that was great. I decided to do Living with the Land while I was right there. That was a walk-on. For folks who are curious, the lights were strung for the Living with the Land overlay, but they weren't lit. And the cast members told me they wouldn't be lit until Festival of the Holidays started. So just a heads up for anyone curious about all the timing of decorations is always interesting at Disney. Let's see. From there, I went and saw the Celebración Encanto, which is the little Encanto show right around there. That was super cute. I hadn't caught it before, and it was fun to see. They have great songs. From there, I went over to the Kringla Bakery, grabbed a pastry. I got a gingerbread cookie at Caramel Kucha. So trying to just sort of stock up on some things to hold on to for later. Actually, that gingerbread cookie's still in my fridge here. Looking forward to having it with my kiddos later. And then I was sort of killing time because my hope had been to do the festival booths, right? But nothing is open that early. So I was like, what am I gonna do? So I was right there and I decided to go to Frozen. And I didn't have any lightning lanes on this trip. So this was an experiment and something I don't always recommend to folks, but it was fun to try. So Frozen was posted 15 minutes and it was actually 37 minutes, which for like 10 a.m. or whatever it was at this point wasn't too bad. Again, don't recommend that if that's what you're trying to, if you're actually trying to be efficient about things. But this was a day when I was meandering. So a gift of solo trips and having done a lot of this before. Okay, so by the time I got out of Frozen, a lot of the booths were opening up. So I grabbed a lemon Schofferhofer from Germany and then made my way over to the Voices of Liberty and got to see them, which I love. I'm a big fan of live music, and that's going to feature later on in the trip too. So it was fun to see. Grabbed the egg dish from the France booth super quickly, and then I actually left Epcot to go to the Beach Club Solarium, which is where they were making, or they had a thing set up for an hour to make an ornament, a sand ornament. So that was going to be my main souvenir from the trip. And it was very cute, but I will say for folks who are doing something like that, they are limited times, so it's good to know ahead of time when you're going to go. And also, in this particular instance, the sand spilled out of said ornament, like on my way home. There's like a little hole at the top that can happen. So for folks who are, this is a really granular tip, but for folks who are looking for something like that, just be prepared. It all works.
How did you know before your trip that was taking place there?
Yeah, so there is a really good website called magicalresortguide.com. And they post, I know the person who runs it, and they're wonderful. And they post all of the activity sheets from all of the different resorts at Disney, which change almost monthly, typically either seasonally or monthly. And she posts them up there, and it's a great resource if you're looking for something just a little bit different. The resorts offer some fun activities and things like that, especially around the holidays.
Okay, good to know. They used to be easier to get those schedules because they used to be PDFs online.
Right, and they don't advertise them so as easily anymore.
They sure don't, which is very frustrating.
Yeah, she does a really good job. She has different blog posts and stuff like that of different things up, but she always has them listed within the first couple days of the month. So, yeah. Okay, so then I went back to Epcot, and I was getting tired at this point because I'd already walked around Epcot, but I decided to go back to actually hit up a little more of those booths, and this probably ended up being a mistake, but there it is. Okay, so I went to the front of the park, which is where a lot of the stuff I was interested in was. Forest and Field had some excellent ravioli and chili. Chili was a huge portion, my gosh. Bramblewood Bites. I went to Earth Eats. And then I decided to walk in to experience this Communicore Hall thing that I had heard so much about, Shannon. Yeah, that was disappointing, to say the least. It really just looks like a
cafeteria.
Like a college cafeteria, right? It was disappointing in every way. So I don't know, what that was all about. But yep, saw it, done. Let's see, Flavors from Fire I went to. And then I went to Mexico. And I guess I'll say, so this was, I think, the last weekend, or maybe the second to last weekend that this festival's going on. The lines for food booths, the park itself didn't seem super busy, but the lines for food booths were unbelievable. I want to say I waited 40 minutes for the Mexico booth, which was
This
really long.
was on a Saturday.
It was. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I was just surprised. And by Saturday afternoon, there were a lot of inebriated souls walking around already, which I was just surprised by in the afternoon, but that was a little disappointing. And I've been to most of the festivals and must have just timed it better. I did not experience that in the afternoons before, so that was too bad. I skipped a couple booths I had in mind just because I thought, I don't need this food, and the lines are getting crazy stupid long. So let's see. I went to Wine Keller, which I'd never been to before, and even that was like a solid half an hour wait. I've never seen anything like that in that area. And then I decided to save my feet a little and took a friendship boat back to the Dolphin. By this time, I had done almost 16,000 steps, and it was only 2:30 in the afternoon.
And you had a whole thing this evening.
I did. I had a lot more coming. So yeah, this was probably not the wisest of plans.
That is rough. I always see people posting their steps, and it's like 30,000 steps a day.
Yeah, yep, that's about right.
That's why over 20, and I am knocked out. So, so your room was ready by this time?
Yes, it was. Yep. So I checked into Swan Reserve, which was beautifully decorated for Christmas, and then I got to the room and then headed to the Orlando Informer meetup in Universal. And I got there just after. I was going to get there earlier, but there was some bad traffic. I got there about 6 p.m.
And did you like Uber, Lyft to get there?
No, I had rented a car from Turo, and I used
that's
the
right.
car.
I remember that at the beginning.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so you drove yourself to Universal and got there around 6, you said.
I did. Yep. So the way Universal Informer Nights work is the park closes at a certain time, and it's sort of like a Disney after hours ticket, but there are a few key differences. So this night, the park closed at 8 to regular guests. We could get in as early as 5 with just the Orlando Informer ticket, and then it went till 1:30 in the morning. It was $255, but the gift of it is that all food and drink are included, and a number of the restaurants stay open for some time during that evening. Mm-hmm. So the restaurants run from, they have to close for a period of time, but they run from 9 to 12:30, and then the snack carts are open until 1:30, until the end of the night. So this was interesting. I don't know Universal as well. I've been a few times, but I'm not as well versed in it as I am at Disney. So this was an experience. So I should say, as I was going, I realized, and this will feature later, I realized that my phone was at like 20%. And I said, and I had forgotten I have chargers I carry with me all the time. And for some stupid reason, it was back in the room. And I said, I know how to get to and from Universal. I do know how to do that and like drive and stuff. That'll be fine. And I can check in. I know my phone will make it till that point. And you know what? Like there's a map there. This won't be a problem. I'll figure it out. That ends up being a mistake. So anyway, I got to Universal, and the check-in for this event is you have to walk through. So I parked at City Walk. You have to walk through City Walk to Hard Rock Cafe. And at that point, they take you actually to like a backstage area in in like a massive room where they have booths and tables and stuff set up for you to check in. I give Universal Orlando Informer a ton of credit. They did a fantastic job of having signs. They had people with lit signs along the whole walkway so that we knew exactly where we were going. We knew what we needed to do. And that was really, in terms of communication, I was very impressed. Lots of emails ahead of time. Here's a number to text in case you have a problem. Here's where we will be throughout the night. Like just really well done, really friendly cast members. I thought it was a great experience overall on that front.
They do it often enough. I bet they have gotten it down.
I think so. Yeah. Very impressive, like really well run. All right. So when I got there, I went through all this walking and checked in. And then there are some some little bites that you can have before going into the park itself. I didn't want to do any of that. So I just went straight into the park to try and get some things done before the park closed. So I went over to Minion Mayhem, which is the new Minion ride that I hadn't done before. That ride is absurd. It's a shooting ride, and for folks who don't know, you have literally no idea what you're doing. There's not a lot of good instruction for how that works. It's cute, but it doesn't make any sense. So that was an experience.
That quote down, it's cute, but it doesn't make any sense. That can describe people that I know.
That's true. You're adorable. I don't understand you at all. That's funny. Yeah. So let's see. So then I went to the Minion Cafe because I hadn't been there before and just grabbed a couple of small things. That took forever to come out, and there was no one in there. I don't understand. But I've experienced that before with Universal. Sometimes their mobile ordering process is very different from Disney's, so didn't love that. But went over to Today Cafe. I'd never been there and tried something there, and then hopped into line for Transformers to just kind of get it done because I was right there. Went over to the new Trolls area, did their Troller Coaster, which is for folks who haven't done it because it's a pretty new one. Probably it's like a slightly better version of Barnstormer, but it's along those lines, a definite like kid coaster. So, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't all that terribly exciting. It was while I was in line there that the park closed, and then I headed over to the Harry Potter area, over to Diagon Alley.
Mm-hmm.
And, this was just such a gift. I absolutely love that area. So I'm more of a Disney person than Universal, but the Harry Potter stuff, to me, is the best themed section of any park anywhere. So I love it. And it was so empty, Shannon. Like, I've experienced that at Rope Drop, but at no other time is anyone going to ever see this land so sparse.
But I'm confused how it's empty, because presumably they sold plenty of tickets, and that area would be a popular area.
It would be. It was popular. It got a little busier. So I was there for a good chunk of time. It got a little busier, but they keep, I think, the number of tickets for this so low. So there were no lines for any ride. And spoiler alert, the only thing I waited for was Hagrid's, which was about 25 minutes. So, I mean, they just keep the crowds low for this event. And I was really surprised.
That's an amazing benefit. If you compare to what the express passes cost.
Exactly.
Or like the new premier passes at Disney World, which are kind of a similar thing.
Right.
It actually seems reasonable.
Right. I had planned to go to Universal one other time to just sort of enjoy it again, right? But I was like, okay, I'm going to have to get a one night at a premier hotel, or get, right, so I could get the free express pass stuff or buy express, and all of that adds up. So honestly, one night of just soaking all this in, I thought it was reasonably priced for what it offered.
Yeah, especially for one person. Because if you get a hotel room, you can put multiple people there. But
That's right.
It doesn't seem too bad.
No, I don't think it was. So, and some of the offerings were wild if you add on. So once the park closed and things opened up, and I was surprised actually it opened up a bit earlier than the official stuff said it would, but like all of the places offering butterbeer were unlimited, right? So you can go and pick up like 5 if you wanted to, multiple
cups. That makes me nauseous thinking about it, but I love that idea.
Right. And all of the different drinks, if you wanted to try something, but you didn't want to spend the money for it before, like you can just sample. The Florian's, the ice cream place in Diagon Alley, has these wild flavors that, again, you may not want to cough up the money to try if you aren't going to like it. But all of those were available for free samples throughout the night. So you could just go in line and get as many. Again, this makes you sick thinking about it, too. It's like, let's just add sugar to our bodies. But it was so fun to try things I wouldn't have normally tried. So just some cool perks to this particular event.
And the price includes the ticket. Like, you don't have to do a ticket and the event. It's
Correct.
Just this. Because the actual ticket, like to get a park-to-park ticket, is in itself in that price range, right?
It's high, right? And then combined with Express Pass, add in the free food. I mean, and this was long, Shannon. It's longer than Disney. So, I mean, you had from 5 p.m. to 1:30 a.m.
So 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to find the catch, and I'm like, there doesn't seem to be a catch.
No, I mean, it really was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I can see why they're popular.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, so I hung around in Diagon Alley. I did Escape from Gringotts. That was a walk-on. I did some spell spots just for fun. Had brought my old wand with me. So Florian's was open. I did that. And then I took the Hogwarts Express over to Islands of Adventure. From there, I did Forbidden Journey, again, a walk-on, some spell spots, tried all the Harry Potter drinks from the 3 broomsticks, got some shepherd's pie. They had, so even though, and this is probably cool to know, even though Christmas hasn't officially started at Universal, it starts later, it was decorated. So everything was decorated for Christmas, and seeing Hogwarts at Christmas time was absolutely lovely. And fantastic. Just gives you all the right feels. So they have a light show that's 4 times that evening. The Magic of Harry Potter, which was Christmas themed on the castle. Gorgeous. And then I hopped in line for Hagrid's. Again, that was about a half an hour, 25 minutes, something like that.
Was that your longest?
Yeah, by far. Everything else was a walk-on.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hagrid's is always going to be hard. And it doesn't have Express Pass, so...
Exactly. I mean, I've rope drop Hagrid's and waited a long time before getting into the park. And then, it's still a decent wait, even if you rope drop it in the mornings. So, and sometimes it's not running, et cetera, right? So this was fantastic. So that was definitely well worth it. Let's see. I walked over I was dragging at this point. I think it's probably fair to say I was quite tired. But there were a few things I hadn't seen in Universal before that I just kind of wanted to grab and tick off. So went over to Jurassic Park. They had the raptor encounter out. That did look like it was a decent line. So I didn't wait for it, but I just kind of watched the raptor come out. It's an incredible audio animatronic for folks who haven't seen that. Let's see. I went over to Wimpy's. That was open. I got a burger there. It was fine. I had heard great things. It was fine. I went on the Spider-Man ride. That was also fine.
However you feel about Transformers is probably how you feel about Spider-Man.
You're not wrong. I hadn't been to a couple of these, right? So I was like, well, I hear good things about them. And I honestly should have just stayed in the Harry Potter area, but whatever, it's fine. Sue's Landing was absolutely adorable for Christmas. It was super cute. I like it in there. Hit up Green Eggs and Ham. Again, it was fine. And then I went back to Harry Potter area and just enjoyed some stuff there. I got my kids. I couldn't believe they still had this open. So one of the shops there customizes like scarves and things like that. And I had those before for my kids, but I decided to get them for Christmas. And they were like, yeah, come back in 10 minutes. It'll be, embroidered on. I'm like, seriously? Like, it's like midnight or something. So that was just bizarre, but it worked. It was great. So grabbed those for my kids and then headed back on the Hogwarts Express. I had planned to try hit up Finnegan's. I know they have good bread pudding. And that was one thing they were like, we're so sorry. We ran out earlier in the night. Fine. And then I was done, but it was quite late. I was pretty tired at this point. And this is where my phone had died sometime before this. So I clocked 31,000 steps at some point, but I definitely added a lot more in at this point because, Shannon, I thought I had remembered where I had parked my car at City Walk. And I had very wisely taken a picture of where I had parked my car, but that was obviously not accessible to me, right? So I kind of lost my mind a little bit. And I was just a couple of rows over, but it took forever for me to realize it. So while I was like, maybe I got the wrong level. So I did the levels multiple times. I added the steps and it was late and I was so tired. It was not the best way to end the night. But I did eventually find it and drove back to Swan Reserve. And I was in bed at about 2:15 in the morning, which was wild.
That's a long day.
It was a long day. It was a really long day. I was pretty wiped.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as bad as when I had done the Every Ride Challenge in January at Disney, but it was up there. It was pretty bad. I was pretty tired.
Okay.
The following ad is sponsored by Pets Best Insurance Services. Your pet is your bestie, your therapist, your preferred match. It's easy to love them, even when they sneak your snacks. It's easy to protect them, too, with pet insurance coverage from Pets Best. Because it's all fun and games until they chew on something they shouldn't. With perfect timing, Pets Best helps protect your furry friend and your budget from this imperfect world. Get up to 90% on eligible vet bills for less than $1 a day. Find your perfect match at PetsBest.com. Pet insurance products offered and administered by Pets Best Insurance Services, LLC, are underwritten by American Pet Insurance Company or Independence American Insurance Company. For all terms, visit PetsBest.com/policy.
This holiday season, surprise everyone on your list with the best gifts. Tickets to see their favorite artists live. Choose from thousands of concerts and comedy shows, including Mariah Carey, Mary J. Blige, Matt Matthews, Metallica, Thomas Rhett, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Sarah Silverman, and so many more. Share a memory together or give a gift they'll never forget. Find the most exciting gift for every fan at livenation.com/gifts. That's livenation.com/gifts.
The next day was Sunday, November 17th, and your resort change was going to the yacht club, not very far away.
That's right. Yeah, I was just hopping around there. Yes, and that was ticking off a bucket list item. I hadn't stayed there before. So just had planned to rope drop this day, and I was like, I'm just not going to set the alarm. To heck with this. I'm just going to wake up when I wake up, and I'm going to see how this goes. So sure enough, though, I woke up at like 7 a.m. and I thought, okay, this is a little late for rope drop, especially I was planning to do rise, but let's get ready and see how this goes. So I got all my stuff out, checked out, etc. And I drove. I hadn't planned to do that. I thought I would walk, but I was like, nope, my feet are toast. So I drove to Hollywood Studios to rope drop rise. And I was pretty close to the front, which was shocking, actually. But of course, and as everyone who has tried this knows, rise is down about 30% of the time at rope drop. And I was unlucky. So I wound up doing Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run instead. That opened early. So early entry started at 8:30. I was back there at 8:15 and it was already open. It was a 10-minute posted wait. I did single rider. For folks who don't know this, if you go single rider on Millennium Falcon, you can go left or right at a certain point. Go left because everyone instinctively goes right. It's less obvious going left, but if you do that, you'll skip a line. And it was a walk-on. I was off by 8:25. So I went back to Rise, which was still not running, and just sort of looked around there to see what was going on. They were letting people line up, and there was some chitter chatter over the mic, their oh my gosh, their radios and stuff. And I got the sense something was going to happen. So sure enough, we got onto Rise. Rise was in like the most B mode I've ever experienced it. So Kylo Ren was certainly in B mode, and they skipped. I've never had this happen before. They skipped the whole transport vehicle. So when you come into the room with the stormtroopers, usually you're coming in sort of from the middle. We came in from the left, which I'd never seen before. So that was interesting. And I was off by 9:15. So still really early.
So it makes you wonder when it's down, what is going wrong? Because when it comes up, so many things are not fully functional.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Kylo Ren in B mode before, right? That's sort of a 50-50.
Unfair. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of us have.
Yes, that's right.
Seems to be the norm almost.
I know, but I had never skipped the whole transport vehicle experience. That surprised me because that's not an insignificant part of the ride. So I was surprised, but it made things go faster, which I wasn't mad about on this day because I had somewhere to be. So I quickly grabbed the hot chocolate lunchbox tart from Woody's. That is delicious. If folks haven't tried, that's a yummy one. And then I hopped back in the car and drove to Disney Springs because I had a boathouse brunch at 10:30.
Huh? And how was that?
So this is the captain's brunch, which is only on weekends, and I might even be Sundays only. I can't remember, but there are dueling pianos and piano players who play. That part was wonderful. I absolutely love that. And actually, this is going to be like the day of live music, which is hilarious because I hadn't really planned that. But that part was wonderful. I like Boathouse a lot. I find their food to be really delicious. I'd been for dinner before, but not breakfast. This was interesting. So I got an appetizer and then I got the crab cake Benedict, and it came out and the eggs were hard-boiled eggs on a Benedict. Huh. And, soft-boiled eggs are tough and poached. They're supposed to be poached, right? And getting that runny yolk is tricky. Like, I like to cook and bake, but this was like hard. I mean, this wasn't even an attempt. This was like completely hard-boiled. So I was like, and part of Benedict is that yummy, gooey stuff, right?
That's kind of the point.
That's right. And it's so I have literally never done this in my whole life, Shannon. I like good food, but I'm not someone to complain. But this is a really expensive meal. It's like a $33 crab cake Benedict. And I was like, this isn't quite right. So I actually did. And they were very gracious and took it away and made another one. And I felt terrible, but it was very tasty.
I'm like you. I don't send feedback. I don't even like to return things.
I don't
But
either.
in that case, that's just not correct.
Yeah. I mean, it was very obviously not correct. It wasn't even like, it was in too long. It was just obviously not what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I felt bad, but it did work out. And I still tip them nicely because the service there is always lovely. But one of the things that was also a little weird was my time was for 10:30. I got in there at maybe 10:15, 10:20, and usually you have to wait a while for the boathouse. They got me in right away, probably because they had just opened. But what that meant was they were like really fast. And the pianist doesn't start until 11. So I had my entree by like 10:40. And they were like, no rush, but here's your receipt. And I was like, or your bill. And I'm like, no, this isn't the way this is going to work. So I said, is it okay if I'm hanging out for a little bit longer? And they were like, oh yeah, that's fine. And I'm inwardly thinking like, yeah, they probably are not thrilled with the party of one taking up a seat right where the pianists were and all this good stuff. But I stayed until 11:30. I didn't push it like crazy, but I felt like it was a little rushed. So if folks are looking for that experience, maybe make one for closer to 11. But that was interesting. And the area was very full when I left at 11:30. I mean, the way I've seen Boathouse before, like people waiting out the doors and, yeah. So I do understand, and I wasn't trying to be that, but I did want to just kind of have that experience. It was interesting.
But I think when you have live entertainment, it encourages people to kind of linger.
Well, right. And you're specific. I guess I should say this too. Like you can't book the brunch specifically on My Disney Experience, but on Open Table, there's like you very specifically booking that brunch. So the reservation was like clearly for the captain's brunch from this time period to this time period. So, and they seat you in a certain spot in the restaurant in order to access that. So anyway, yeah. So food was eventually great and the experience was great. It just was a little different than I'd expected. Okay, so then I was like exhausted, right? And I was checking into the yacht club and it was like noon or whatever. I had not expected my room to be ready, but I said, Disney's better at this than Swan and Dolphin. Maybe I'll give it a shot and just see what happens. So drove to Yacht Club. They have a lovely train set and holiday village set up in their lobby. So it's not a gingerbread display, but it is an absolutely beautiful, very detailed Christmas display. So it's well worth a stop if folks don't know that, because it's not listed anywhere that I could see, but it was really beautiful. So I tried to check in and they said, your room is not ready. And then they said, but you know what? Just hang out for a minute. And then it was literally 30 seconds later. They said, guess what? Your room is ready now. So checking in person, I found can sometimes work like this. So I got really lucky and I'm so glad I did because I was quite tired. So got into the room and rested a bit. And then I walked over later to the boardwalk because I had a DVC tour at 3 p.m. And that was interesting. So it's for folks who haven't done it, they're offering a $100 gift card promotion until December 15th. It's a 30-minute conversation. There really is not any pressure, and that was great. I had a good experience. Sometimes these things can not go that way, and I was a little nervous about that. But it was a lovely conversation. I learned again that DVC is absolutely not for me, but it was good. It was a good experience, and I learned a lot.
Okay. I want to ask you in the after chat more about the DVC thing because people always ask me to.
Yeah. No problem. Yep. So then I went back to the room to relax a bit. I was dragging this day, to be honest. I was just trying not to like kill myself. I still managed to do something like 20,000 steps on this day though. And yeah, I don't really know how that happened, but there it is. So then later in the day, I bussed to Disney Springs. And I had not done this before, but the tree crawl is so fun and everything was decorated. It was absolutely beautiful to just see all of these different trees. You can pick up a map from a couple of different locations. And if you find them all, you put a sticker in the right spot and they will give you a badge or something to redeem it once you're done with that. And I'll be going back with my son in a couple of weeks. So I did the ones that I thought we would, in an area of Disney Springs I didn't think we would get to. So hopefully I can bring it back and he and I can wrap that up. But that was really fun. I looked around World of Disney. I looked around Naribas Brothers. It's all just super beautiful. I didn't buy anything, but I had fun just looking. And then I went over to Jock Lindsay's for their holiday hangar bar experience.
And how did you like it?
I loved it. It was so fun. So I had not been in there before, and it's a really small area. I hadn't realized how tiny that space is. It's really a bar with a handful of tables. It is not a big space. But it's sort of like a Christmas holiday explosion of decorations in the spot. And it's just wonderful. It's very kitschy and cute. And I thought the food was excellent. So I got the croquettes. They're a turkey croquette with cranberry and sweet potato stuff. And then also got the ham and cheese trees and drink. And it was all absolutely wonderful. Just had a lot of fun there. Let's see. Then, and I will say, so the line was kind of long to get in. It took maybe, I mean, it wasn't long, but it took maybe half an hour to get in, and I was a person of one. And this was early-ish. I want to say this was at like 6 or so. So I looked later in the evening. I walked by that area, and the line was even longer. So early bird might get the worm on that one, but it was lovely. And then let's see, I went over to Swirls on the Water. They have some peppermint things and stuff. So I got a peppermint chocolate swirl cone. It was fine. It was more icy than flavorful. That's a once and done for me. And then I had heard that, so I've been curious about, I'm always interested in the immersion that Disney tries to offer in these random places and all of the background lore in some of these spots. So there is a tunnel that goes from the Maria and Enzo's restaurant into the Edison. And you can just take this tunnel for fun. And the idea is that you're kind of going to a speakeasy and it's, illegal and underground and all this interesting stuff. So I just wanted to check out the tunnel. So I did that. That was cute and fun. And then I went to Edison because they also have live entertainment on certain evenings. So I went over to the Edison and just got a drink and sat at the bar and listened to some of the music there.
Mm-hmm.
That was fine and fun. That I'd never been in the Edison before, so that was a really different vibe. And that drink was like the strongest thing I've ever had in my life. I'm like, wow, I can't do this for very long, but it was good. Then I took a bus back actually went to the boardwalk. So I took a bus from Disney Springs, which was absolutely packed. So for folks who don't know, I'd never taken a bus to and from Disney Springs. I realized that because I usually drive, right? But I wanted to bus this time. And they combined boardwalk, beach club, yacht club, and it was packed to the gills. Unbelievable. So I did that and went to boardwalk because I wanted to go to Jelly Rolls. So I went to Jelly Rolls.
The live music theme continues.
Right. I have been to Jelly Rolls before. I love it there. It's one of my happy places at Disney. I think they do a fantastic job. And if the crowd is right, the vibe is just super fun. So I nursed a lot of water there and just put my feet up and absolutely loved it. It's a high cover charge to get in for folks who don't know that. And that can be off-putting. I totally understand. But it is a really cool experience. And there's a rumor they're closing. I'm really hoping it's a fake rumor because it's one of the best spots, I think, for adults that Disney offers.
I think at least one of the Boathouse piano players is formerly at Jelly Rolls too.
Oh, really? That's
funny. So you kind of had a sampling of several different pianos.
Yeah, I hadn't really expected all that. But yeah, it was right. It was Boathouse and then Edison and then Jelly Rolls. And it was really great. Jelly Rolls is my favorite. But the Boathouse has it's somewhere I would love to take like my mom, right? It has this lovely, just chill vibe, but Jelly Rolls is the best. I love it. Mm-hmm. So I was not making good choices in terms of sleep though. So I finally left there just after 12:15 a.m. I was in bed by 12:30 and I had done 20,000 steps this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No wonder you're tired right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm starting to feel a little more like myself, but I'm still recovering a bit.
You had a big day planned for the next day.
I did. Yeah. So, all right. So I woke up and I had a cake bake shop breakfast reserved for 8 a.m. Okay. So I know there's been a lot of talk and hype about this particular location. It is absolutely beautiful inside. So for anyone who's been paying attention, the pictures are lovely. Cake Bake comes from a woman who has 2 other locations in Indiana and really prioritizes decor. So when she came down to Disney, she was, I guess, hand picking crystals for chandeliers and all kinds of stuff. It is absolutely beautiful inside. It was decorated for Christmas. It's a very white interior and a lot of similar, like, Santa dressed in silver and moving reindeer up above your heads and all kinds of stuff. It was absolutely beautiful. So for folks looking for decor, this is absolutely gorgeous. I had a tea and a piece of quiche and a piece of cake. Those things cost me $75 after tip, which for a breakfast without alcohol is out of control ridiculous, Shannon. Just nuts. And nothing I had was terrible. The quiche was very good for folks who like a custard style quiche. So it was easily 3 or 4 inches high. It was a beautiful piece. Very nice side salad, right? Impeccably served. The service there was absolutely wonderful. They were very solicitous. The tea was fine. The cake was good. And I should say, I love to cook and to bake. So in another life, I would have gone into that kind of profession. So I know good food. I like good food. This was very good. I had it early in the morning. It's big. I got the champagne raspberry cake for folks curious. If you use fresh fruit in cakes, it will get soggy. So later in the day, I wouldn't be surprised if this got soggy. I had it in the morning. It was very nice. I did not eat half of it. You could easily split that into 2, maybe 3 slices. So at the same time, it was $75, which was the highest I paid for any meal on this trip. And for me, it wasn't worth it. It's a once and done. I can't say anything bad about decor, service. The food was fine. I don't think it was that level fine. And I also don't.
Price.
The price is brutal. And they've already lowered some of the prices. So I think there's something. I'll be curious to see how things go there. I also just do not think it fits at the boardwalk. It has Grand Flow vibes to me for what that's all worth. But for folks who like quiche, like that was definitely the standout. That was good. Otherwise, I would not take the time. It's the sort of place I would take. Like I could see it being like a great bridal party kind of location, right? It's very stereotypically girly, if that's your kind of vibe. It's very princessy. They just came out, I think, with a menu that is like a tea, an afternoon princess tea, something or other. It's just very expensive. It's very expensive.
Which fits in great at the Grand Floridian.
It does,
You expect that decor, you expect the princessy thing, you expect the price point.
That's right. They used to have a tea like that, right? I mean,
Sure did.
Yep. So that fits to me. But even so, even for Disney pricing, and I live an hour outside of New York City, Shannon. Like, I know how expensive food can get. This was something else. So, and also, I don't get why every food needs to have glitter in it. That's just not I don't need to eat glitter. Anyway, personal preference. So anyway, that was an experience, and I'm glad I tried it. I wasn't disappointed in the food. I didn't think it was awful, but I won't be rushing back. All right.
Good to know.
Yeah. Okay, so then I drove to the Contemporary to check in there. Room was not ready, which makes sense. This was at like 9:30 in the morning or something. Although as soon as I walked over to Magic Kingdom, of course I got the text that the room was ready. So that was funny, but let's see. So at the Contemporary, there is a lovely gingerbread spot with a shop. Online, it said it would open at 10. It opens at 9:30. Got a lovely peppermint mocha situation drink that was lovely, really good. And I enjoyed that while walking over to Magic Kingdom because today was Mickey and Minnie's birthday, and we had an interesting experience there. All right.
I can't wait to hear how Mickey and Minnie's birthday was her interesting experience.
Yes. So, yeah. So, all right. So I won't bury the lead. So hidden Mickeys are everywhere, right? The so-called rarest hidden Mickey is only visible for like 20 odd minutes on Mickey and Minnie's birthday, November 18th. The way this works is in the Little Mermaid queue going into the ride, there is a cutout in the roof at a certain spot that is shaped like a Mickey head and a Minnie head. And then there are these there's a blue ball and a red ball. They're iridescent balls, and the light on this day around noon will shine through this area to create this impression on the wall of Mickey and Minnie's heads. So it's only visible on November 18th on their birthday around noon. So I thought this was kind of like a little secret thing, and that this would not be as completely bonkers as it ends up being. But I was so sadly mistaken. Okay, so I get into Magic Kingdom. I'm there at, I don't know, 10 a.m., something like that. I place an order for the lunching pad breakfast tots for like a late morning snack. Those are absolutely delicious. I think it's the best breakfast quick service in Magic Kingdom at this point. And then I raced over to Big Thunder Mountain. Big Thunder is my favorite roller coaster in Disney, and I'm going back in December with my son, but he does not like coasters, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to ride it, and it'll be closed for a long time starting in early January, so I wanted to catch it. So it was posted at 40 minutes. The actual wait was 25 minutes, and this was around 10:30-ish, 10:45. I then hopped into Memento Mori, which is the gift shop outside of Haunted Mansion, because I had been told there was a cool mirror in there, if you never looked at this, where Madame Leota appears in like this silhouette form, and she's creepy as all get out, and then she disappears. It's kind of cool, so I caught that. And then I said, well, I should probably get a snack for this wait, because Hidden Mickey won't be showing up for another half an hour or something. So I grabbed a ham and Gruyere tart from Gaston's. That was wonderful. And then I went over to Little Mermaid to see what the story was. Oh my gosh, Shannon. So I guess the word is out, which makes sense that I had also heard it, right? That I wouldn't be the only one. They had hundreds of people forming a line going out the Little Mermaid queue. So we stayed to the left, and the people actually going into the ride we stayed to the right, and the people going into the ride went around us. But I lined up at like 11. It's supposed to be visible starting around 11:50. I got there at like 11:35, and I was already out the queue. So no, that's not true. I was close to the end of the queue. So it was just wild. And the trickiest part was that it was a cloudy day. So if it's not shining, if the sun's not shining, you're not going to see this. So there were, my best guess at its peak, a couple of hundred people trying to do this. They, to their credit, had cast members positioned throughout the queue to kind of let us know how to line up and where to be and where not to be. So then at 11:50 or so, we heard people let out a big cheer from that area of the queue. We were like, oh, good, it's visible. Cool. And then the whole queue started singing happy birthday to Mickey and Minnie, which was totally adorable. So we did that. And then the line didn't move at all. And I was like, so it's not as though they're letting people just go through to see it. They weren't shunting people through that way. They were just letting people congregate there at the expense of everybody else behind them. And I'm like, this is a time-sensitive thing. This is not the way this needs to go. And then it got cloudy again, and nothing was visible. So everyone in line was getting nervous. I was in there with vloggers and all kinds of people wanting to record this thing, and it was not happening. So eventually at like 10 after 12, when there was nothing happening, it was all cloud overcast. I mean, it wasn't even overcast. There were bits and pieces. It was like, it was partly cloudy, right? So there was the opportunity to maybe see it, but it wasn't happening. Eventually, about 10 after, they started just letting us walk through. They like kind of skirted us through and said, we're very sorry. Here's where it would have been. And I hung for a minute, and they were like, you really need to keep moving. We can't let people hang here. If we let one person, we will let everybody. And I was, yeah, I got it. So I walked through, And then there's nowhere to get out. So you're going on the ride. And the ride at this point had like, and you know, Shannon, this is ridiculous. It had like a 40-minute wait or something because everyone was walking through this line.
You know what? Chicken exit. First person to use the chicken exit.
Totally. But there was like nowhere to get there. I mean, it was very like there was not a place to get out. So I did something I have never done before at Disney. I saw the ropes, and I don't recommend this for anyone listening. I saw the chains and I got through and left and wound up like getting out the lightning lane entrance, which I've never done before. But then, Shannon, the sun was peeking out and I was like, huh. So I booked it. Like I went back through the line and these two people were walking so slowly in front of me, just trying to get to the ride. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I'm not trying to get to the ride, but I have like seconds if you don't mind. And they were like, sure. They had no idea what I was talking about. But I ran ahead and I saw the same cast members who had been so nice before, like walking us through. And they were like, it's right there. And sure enough, it was there. So I like stunned. I grabbed a couple pictures and within 20 seconds, it was gone again and then gone for the day because the sun had passed. So I saw it. It was completely ridiculous. Like it was the silliest thing I've probably ever done at Disney, but I got to see it. So yeah, that was an experience.
You did it. Yes.
I did it.
I think this is the definition of ephemeral. Okay. Ephemeral, the word ephemeral.
Yes.
All right. It's gone until next year.
That's right. It was wild. It was such a weird experience. All right.
That's crazy detailed planning though on Disney's part.
Yes. Yeah, I can't get over. And that's the part that I love about Disney is it's not the rush and the euphoria. It's the little intricate details that I'm like, who thought of this? Like, who came up with this idea as they're designing a Little Mermaid ride? You know, it was just wild. So I was on a real rush and a high after that. It was hard for my adrenaline to come down because that was just incredible. So, all right, after that, I went and grabbed, some things to eat, and most of it I saved for later that I hadn't had before. So I got the Tiana beignets. They were fine. I don't think they were bad, but they were fine. Got hush puppies from Columbia Harbor House, and this shows how very busy it is. Usually the upstairs of Columbia Harbor House is kind of quiet, packed, not a seat in the house. Was trying to just find a spot to sit down because I had waited so long in those two queues that, yeah, I was ready for a minute, but there was nowhere to go. So I wound up over at Pecos Bill's and got a child's version of nachos, and they have a new menu. They're absolutely delicious. The nachos and the seasoned fries both had just really good flavors to them. There was a little bit of heat, which is hard to find sometimes at Disney. I was really pleased. So that was good. And then I started to go out. I checked out the Mickey Christmas Carol dioramas. They have those in the Emporium windows. They're just cute little moving dioramas of that story. And that was just so fun to see. And then took a boat, again, to save my legs, over to the Grand Floridian.
Because you're doing a crawl. Yes,
just a little bit. I know there wasn't much at the Poly, so I just wanted to see Grand Flo. So, of course, that gingerbread house is absolutely stunning. There's nothing quite like it. I'm always impressed. And this was interesting. So on this day, and again, it's only this day of the week, from 1 to 2 p.m., the chef was there to like answer questions and talk about the experience of making it. So if anyone's super curious about that for this season, it's just on Mondays from 1 to 2, super random. So that was cool. I got to thank him for all of his effort on it and hear a little bit about the stuff. Let's see. I grabbed a treat that I saved for another time that's currently in my fridge. And then I just went back to the Contemporary to rest a bit because I had a full evening.
You sure did.
Yeah.
So did you cancel your 5 p.m. reservation this day?
No, I didn't. I made it. This is still early.
Okay.
So this was...
The time that we are at is before that reservation. All right.
That's right. Yeah, this was at like, I don't know, 3 maybe, 2:30, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I did wonder what the best way to get there was. I was trying to decide because I could, again, my feet were still hurting. So I thought, okay, I could go park at the Swan Reserve, which had been my initial plan. And then that's a pretty good getaway after Jollywood Nights. But I didn't really feel like walking all the way from Swan Reserve to Jollywood Nights and then back again. So anyway, I decided not to. I decided to take a bus. So I monorailed from the Contemporary over to the TTC. And then I took a bus to the Swan and Dolphin for my Amare dinner at 5 p.m. So Amare is lovely. I didn't find it to be quite the same level as some of the other restaurants at Swan and Dolphin. I didn't like what I had quite as much, but it was fine. What I ordered was pricey for what it was, and actually the server warned me. So they have a special family recipe of lamb dumplings, which is a very small portion. It's more of an appetizer-sized portion, but it's listed in the entree menu. It was fine. I didn't think it was amazing, but I was glad for actually a small amount of food because I knew I would be eating some more, and I had already eaten plenty that day. So it was fine. After that, I took a boat to Hollywood Studios for Jollywood Nights. All right. Jollywood Nights, the check-in was really seamless. And I know this was a major issue early on last year where there weren't a lot of spots inside the park versus outside, et cetera. This was really lovely. Because I have an annual pass, I could get in. And I got in at like 5:55 or something really early. They sent us over to either Star Wars Launch Bay or Muppet Vision 3D, where you could get your wristband and then go on your merry way. So I went over to Launch Bay. It was really easy, just a quick check-in. There was no line. And then I went over to Tower of Terror to ride Tower of Terror. That's my favorite. Well, that and Rise are my two favorite rides in that park, and I hadn't gotten to Tower yet on this trip. So I went over there. That was a roughly 25-minute wait, so not too bad for Tower. I was actually really surprised. And then I had a 6:40 p.m. reservation at 50s prime time just to try their peanut butter and jelly milkshake because I had not had that before. And you used to be able to get it to go, and that is no longer the case. So I got in there, and the guy, I've eaten there before. Since COVID, some of the theming has been a little more muted, I think, in just their hijinks and shaming of elbows on the table and not eating vegetables and stuff like that.
Is that disappointing to you? You like theming?
Yes, I think I can get over the top, right? I don't want to make anyone truly be uncomfortable, but I think it's cute. I think it's funny. So I'm always happy when somebody lives into that kind of theming. I've experienced the same at Whispering Canyon Cafe, right? Where you can get folks who are really into it, or you can get folks who kind of, I don't know, walk through the steps, right? So I actually love the theming. And the guy I said, I'm going to make it really easy for you. And he's like, yeah, see, that's probably a lie. And I said, well, listen, I'm just here for a milkshake. He's like, you're just having a milkshake and not dinner with vegetables and all this business. So he had fun with it and loved it. Milkshake was fantastic. It's more peanut butter forward than jelly for anyone who's concerned about that. I thought it was delicious. I didn't quite finish it. It's massive. And I knew this wasn't the end of the night. So that was really quick. I was out of there by 7:15 or something. And then I walked over to Fairfax Fair. They have holiday popovers for the party. And they were actually selling them a little early. I was surprised, but they were all ready to go at 7:15. So I grabbed one of those.
Did they verify that you had the wrist?
Yeah, so they verified, this was interesting. There were cast members out as you walked towards Sunset Boulevard, and they verified there that you had a wristband to even walk that way. So that was interesting. Not too long a line. The event hadn't really started yet. So grabbed that. That was lovely. And then I had a Hollywood Brown Derby reservation for Jazzy Holiday, whatever it was called. Jazzy Holidays, is that right? For 7:45. So here we go with live music, piano again. I was just making these rounds, and it's so funny because I hadn't even intentionally thought about it that way. But this was fantastic, and I was really surprised. I never do reservations during parties or anything like that because it's a huge time suck, right? And you don't have that much time. But there were a couple of things that made me think about this. One is I was very tired, and two was I didn't have a huge number of things I wanted to get to on this in this party. So my hope was truly to just kind of soak it up and take my time and meander and enjoy the vibe. And that's why I decided to do this. And I'm so glad I did. It was just beautiful in there. It was such a calm, chill experience where if you're wanting a break from the hustle bustle of a party, this absolutely puts you in the right mood. So I just had a drink and the sliders. Both were very good. Highly recommend the peppermint schnapps, sipping chocolate. It was excellent. And I was out of there in like a half an hour. So it wasn't it was really quick. Again, party of one, right? Might change that dynamic, but it was great. Let's see. So then I went to the Holiday Fiesta live singing in Animation Courtyard, live music. It was great. They had a lot of fun there. There weren't a lot of people there. It was kind of, it felt tucked away a little bit. So I don't know what it would have been like later in the night, but
I feel like they should move them because that area is not busy during Jollywood Nights.
Right. There wasn't anything else to draw people there. And that's too bad because the music was sensational. They did a great job. But yeah, it felt a little dead. And that's too bad. Yeah. And I thought maybe it's just because it was early, but yeah, I think you're right. The location isn't great. Then I decided, I actually hadn't planned to do it quite this way, but I changed it up on the fly. And I went to the first Glisten performance. So, which is at 8:15. So Glisten is ice skating right in front of Mickey and Minnie's, basically. It was so fun. I thought, again, I'm all about Disney trying new things, being innovative, and having these cool details and experiences. That's really what kind of makes my heart sing with Disney stuff. It was fantastic. I thought the skaters were wonderful. I thought they did a great job. I am not by any means someone who knows much about ice skating, but it was so fun to see and nicely themed. I thought it fit the vibe really well. It was just lovely. It was really lovely and just impressive. Like an ice rink in, 80-degree weather out in Orlando, Florida. It was just very cool. So that was great. After that, I had planned to do some of the earlier shows, but I decided instead to go after some of the characters because I was closer to them in that side of the park. So I went over and met Pinocchio, which was super fun. And I guess I'll say, so with characters, they swap out characters throughout the night, but the cast members were really good at trying to warn people in line, being like, you're in a spot where you're going to be able to see so-and-so. Right. And that helped because if you weren't going to see who you wanted to, and they would actually say, if you want to see so-and-so, I would be back at 9:45. Then that's a good time. Right. So they were giving clues, which I really appreciated. And I don't know if that's something they typically do. I don't often spend time meeting characters in the parks. I don't know if that's something you usually do, but they did a great job of that here.
I think they're focusing on it at Jollywood Nights because it was one of the criticisms last year.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
They're extra good at it at Jollywood Nights now.
Yeah, I was very impressed. I thought it was very helpful because there was one instance where I was in line for a few minutes and then bowed out. But yep, so I went to see Pinocchio, which was fun. That's one of my childhood favorite movies from when I was very young. So that was a real joy. I went to see Mary Poppins, whom I had not met. I tried to meet and she stopped showing up in Epcot as a meet and greet. So that was really fun to see her. That's also my favorite live action Disney movie ever. So it was just great. And then I went over to Galaxy's Edge and caught Mandalorian and Grogu. That line, we each got like approximately 15 seconds with Mando and Grogu because the line was quite long for them. But Grogu is really impressive. Looks exactly like he does in the TV show. I mean, I don't know how they do that stuff, but he was fantastic. From there, I went to Baseline and got their mac and cheese bites, which was the best bite I had of the evening. They had jalapenos in there and it was spicy and spicy aioli and it was just wonderful. And then I lined up because folks are already starting to do this to see Jingle Bell Jingle Bam at 10 p.m.
Had you ever seen it before?
No, I hadn't. I know it's a repeat from previous events. And I know gets some flack for Disney bringing back an old thing. I thought it was fantastic. I loved it.
It needs to be free or included with a regular,
and
parts.
That critique I totally get and makes sense. I can appreciate that. I thought the show was so cute. I loved it. I thought it was adorable. Again, I thought it really fit with Jollywood Nights and the vibe and all that stuff. It was just very cute. They did a good job. I'm a sucker for any kind of light show evening experience stuff. So I know some people are very like to compare and contrast and can be critical of that. I don't know. I think I'm easy on that one. It's really good. Yeah, it was fun. Then the bummer of the timing of Jollywood Nights is that this is why I had planned to do the shows earlier and I just didn't. There is really nothing planned between 10 and 11. After Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam, there aren't any shows planned. And I still had in mind going to see the holiday show featuring the Muppets and the Nightmare Before Christmas show. But that meant that my time was going to be so late in the evening. So anyway, after Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam, that'll feature in later. But after Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam, I went over to the Tip Top Club just to see what that was about. Again, good, like that was fun. It wasn't super crowded. I know that was a critique last year and they've changed how they do it. It was fine. I do have a critique. So I lined up because I had heard they were giving out a free glass with the purchase of a beverage. And it's a plastic glass, but it's a nice looking like champagne flute glass thing. But I wasn't feeling an alcoholic drink at that time. I'd already had something and I was kind of tired. So I bought the regular, like non-alcoholic, whatever it was, hibiscus something or other. And it came out not in the glass. And I was like, oh, I wanted to get the glass. And they're like, that only comes with alcoholic drinks. And I was like, interesting. I said, is there any way I can just buy the glass? No, you have to buy an alcoholic drink to get the glass. Which,
that seems like a miss for Disney because they've gotten so good about providing mocktails.
Yes.
Especially because, non-alcoholic options are popular, but it should still be able to get the souvenir.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. I was bummed by that one and a little, I was just a little miffed. I was like, I don't really feel like drinking right now. And for people who choose not to at all, there should be an option, right? I wouldn't mind an upcharge for the glass. I understand that, but anyway. So I decided to skip it. And then I lined up to go to Holidays in Hollywood, which is the Muppet Show, or commonly known as the Muppet Show, I guess, at the Beauty and the Beast stage. And that was at 11:15. I could have done more, but honestly, I was tired and there wasn't much else down that way that I hadn't done. And I really did want to see this show. I'm a huge Muppet fan and seeing them live is kind of a unicorn. So it was fun. So went in, they let us in at like 10:45 and that was great because I could sit and put my feet up and just enjoy sitting there. And the show was fabulous. I have no notes on that. It was just such a joy to see how Disney puts these things together and to see the Muppets. I can always go for more Muppets, but seeing them in person was really unique and fun. And then I had a choice. So it was it's about a 25-minute show. So it was 11:40. And the Nightmare Before Christmas show was at 12:30 at the end of the night. And I was like, I have to be up at 6 a.m. for my flight the next morning. And I hadn't slept a lot on this trip, period. So waiting another 50 minutes and then like having to walk back even later, like all of it, I said, I think this is a poor choice. I also reminded myself, I am actually not a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan anyway. The movie is just not my favorite. And I had seen the Jack Skellington guy at Mickey's Not So Scary, the very impressive show of him. So I said, I'm going to skip this for my own health and just leave. So did that. And it was smart. I walked almost 28,000 steps that day. So I had filled my time.
Yeah, that is wild.
Yeah.
Your graph of steps is going to be like, this week you have 10% of what you did last week.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I averaged something like 15,000 steps or 18,000 steps in that week or something stupid. This is not normal.
Right. And only a few of those were actually in the parks.
Right.
So the following ad is sponsored by Pets Best Insurance Services. Your pet is your bestie. Your therapist, your preferred match. It's easy to love them, even when they sneak your snacks. It's easy to protect them, too, with pet insurance coverage from Pets Best. Because it's all fun and games until they chew on something they shouldn't. With perfect timing, Pets Best helps protect your furry friend and your budget from this imperfect world. Get up to 90% on eligible vet bills for less than $1 a day. Find your perfect match at PetsBest.com. Pet insurance products offered and administered by Pets Best Insurance Services, LLC, are underwritten by American Pet Insurance Company or Independence American Insurance Company. For all terms, visit PetsBest.com/policy.
This holiday season, surprise everyone on your list with the best gifts. Tickets to see their favorite artists live. Choose from thousands of concerts and comedy shows, including Mariah Carey, Mary J. Blige, Matt Matthews, Metallica, Thomas Rhett, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Sarah Silverman, and so many more. Share a memory together or give a gift they'll never forget. Find the most exciting gift for every fan at livenation.com/gifts. That's livenation.com/gifts.
Okay, well, you told us in the pre-trip you were going to focus on food and entertainment, and it seems like you did that.
Yeah, I feel it was a whirlwind of a trip, but you can do that when it's only 4 days. It's something that, it's more sprint than marathon at that point. And I did. I feel like I got a chance to see a lot and taste a lot. It was great.
Mm-hmm. And then you just said your next morning you had a 6 a.m. alarm to head to the airport.
I did, yep. So I got up, and the joy of moving around to all these resorts is you never really fully unpack, so you don't have to pack. So basically put all my remaining stuff in a bag. I got a quick mobile order from Contempo Cafe and ate that in the car on the way to the airport. And flight home was seamless. Everything worked out fine.
Okay. And now we're talking because this is the next day.
Yeah.
So you've not been back even 24 hours.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So some rapid fire thoughts based on this trip. First of all, traveling this time of year.
I thought it was fine. I caught it on the cusp of all the decorations being out at Disney. Like everything was just the week I arrived kind of coming out. And that was perfect because I don't think the crowds are super high yet and got to experience a lot of that stuff. There were some times that were quite busy from what I've been used to otherwise. So, I mean, my favorite time to go is January, February. And of course, November is going to be busier. But it was fine. I think the weather was okay for someone who really appreciates the colder weather. With highs in the low to mid 80s, that's reasonable. I was there. I've been in September twice. And I never want to do it again. The crowds are great, but it is brutal heat, just brutal. So
And more rain that time of year too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. My Mickey's Not So Scary was an interesting washout experience. So yeah, this in comparison was really nice. Yeah, I would do November again.
Okay. And then using Turo?
Love Turo. So I've done Turo 3 or 4 times now, and I think they do a great job. If you get a highly rated driver and get drop off and pick up at MCO, which sometimes you have to pay a little more for, I think it's very easy. They put it in an economy lot. It's a drop off pickup, very simple. So yeah, highly recommend. And I think it's pretty cheap, and car rentals are not always. So
I'm staying at the Dolphin.
Dolphin was... So I like Swan and Dolphin. The Dolphin had 2 double beds. So if that matters to you, that's a consideration. They're not queens. They might be what's called resort doubles or whatever they call that thing, but they're not queens. So if that matters, that's probably a big deal. Otherwise, I think the location is great. The food offerings are fantastic. Good service. I don't have any complaints.
Swan Reserve.
Swan Reserve is boutique-y and posh and gorgeous. It's a significant upcharge right now, probably because it's newer and a little more niche. I'm not sure it's worth the upcharge compared to Swan and Dolphin. I got it for a steal because of an annual pass holder discount and getting it early. And you got to keep looking at those prices because they come down and you can cancel and rebook very easily. But I love Swan Reserve. I mean, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I don't think it's worth an upcharge compared to Swan and Dolphin.
How about the Yacht Club?
Yacht Club is also beautiful. Newly renovated rooms. Really, I mean, the location, again, like you can't quite beat that spot. These are very pricey rooms. There's a reason I did these for one night, right? Whereas I'll be staying in a moderate resort for 5 nights in a couple of weeks. That's a totally different story. But Yacht Club is absolutely lovely. And again, in the holiday season, this area was really fun to experience, honestly, because there are just so many additional perks and beautiful things that are offered. So.
And then your last resort, the Contemporary?
Yeah. So I had stayed at Bay Lake Tower before, but this time I was in the garden wing. It was a really far walk. The room was a little weird, actually. It was big, but I think I had a king bedroom, and that's an oddly shaped room. There's just a ton of floor space. I've never seen anything like that at Disney before. It's weird. It was fun. I mean, obviously, for me, the Contemporary isn't a huge draw. You stay at the Contemporary because of proximity to Magic Kingdom, and that was kind of why I did that. And I hadn't stayed in Garden View, so it was like ticking off a bucket list thing just to see it. It was a really long walk from the lobby. I don't know. To me, the Contemporary is not my favorite.
With having a car, did you think the garden wing was more accessible?
No, it was farther. It was a really long walk to my car. And I wonder if I should have, I couldn't see how to get there. There was a different parking lot closer to Garden Wing, and I wonder if I should have found a way to get to that. But I didn't take the time to do it because once I checked in, I just parked and I didn't leave again there. I didn't drive. Okay. But maybe that's right.
There is one on that end.
Yeah.
To me, it feels a little bit more accessible because the Garden Wing building itself is smaller.
Yeah.
So it feels more like the moderate resorts in a way.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. And I should have moved the car. That's a really helpful tip. Yeah, I can see it. It's close. It would have been closer. Walking to the lobby was not close.
Right. So it's further to walk to the lobby and Magic Kingdom and all that stuff. But if the car was over there, that would be like one consolation.
Yeah, that would have been smart. That would have saved me some steps, Shannon.
What was your favorite resort that you stayed at this trip?
Yikes. Oh, man, that's hard. I mean, probably Yacht Club. It was really beautiful. I had a beautiful view from there. That also was a long walk for what it's worth, but I did really like it. I mean, I've stayed at Beach Club before. I hadn't stayed at Yacht. The vibe in the room is really beautiful. It's a lot of money for what it is, but it is pretty.
Okay. So I think that's everything. Is there anything about this trip you want to mention before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's been a joy to kind of experience a trip from this angle, right? And thinking about all the things that might be helpful for others to know. But thank you for having me.
I think you have a teaching spirit. So I appreciate you bringing that here.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Jill. I hope you enjoyed my conversations with Jill. I definitely did. She's a freaking delight, as so many guests are. So much so that we just kept talking on the after chat, which is now up on Patreon. So if you want to hear the extended convo, I asked her about more things that we did not cover in this podcast. I think that will wrap up this episode of WDW Prep to Go. For more information, please check the information in your show notes of your podcast app or head to the website, wdwprepschool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 437. Until next time, I will see you on the site.
Ever feel like your blanket just can't keep up with you or the weather? Introducing the all-season Miki Couture Everywhere Blanket. Whether you're at the beach, on a hike, or cozying up around the fire pit, the Miki Couture Everywhere Blanket is your perfect companion. This new hooded blanket is super soft, ultra-portable, and stylish too. It offers luxury comfort and warmth that goes wherever you go. Get your new Miki Couture Everywhere Blanket today. Available now in stores and online at MikiCouture.com.